In this Red Wolf Media commentary, we're going to look at the recent leaked news about Star Wars Detours. Essentially, it's a kind of parody series that covers the entire franchise, and it was under Lucasfilms when George Lucas was still in charge. Apparently, Seth Rogen was behind it, and it was supposed to air on the Cartoon Network. And only a small bit of footage has been leaked, but it covers some interesting ground. We basically see parodies of Chewbacca, Han Solo, Darth Vader, and a lot of other iconic Star Wars figures. Exactly why it wasn't greenlit at the end of the day is still unclear, but this is another Star Wars series that apparently was meant to be put out there. And they had quite a few episodes made, but ultimately they decided not to go through with it, and it was never aired, ultimately. Now, what's interesting here, I think, is that there is a link up to the current Star Wars, though I think in a curious way, because that's an outright parody kind of comedy Star Wars, and so far there hasn't really been anything like that yet under Disney, but the one exception is probably Solo. Solo was conceived not completely as a comedy, but comedic elements were a definite part of Solo, and that was going to be intentionally put into the film. And Lord and Miller were comedy directors, and when they were hired, it would seem they were very intentionally going to create a comedy, but ultimately Kathleen Kennedy pulled the plug, she fired them, and they reoriented Solo. Solo, as we know, had a lot of difficulties in the box office. I've heard from credible sources it actually did make money, so the idea that it flopped is a myth, but it clearly performed below expectations. Now, as to why the current regime of Disney isn't going to go through with something like Detours, I don't know if there is a conspiracy behind it. At this moment, Disney is in a kind of cost-cutting mood with the two Bobs. They're just not going to do anything that they don't think is going to make a huge amount of money. Though in retrospect, Detours actually would have been very good because, again, most of this work could be done through visual and voice actors from a remote location. So they actually could have done quite a few episodes even during the crisis, and they would not have been affected with production because, again, it's not live action. You don't actually have to have people doing face-to-face interactions. So, in retrospect, it's not clear why Disney didn't do it, but I think if Solo is any indication, they are sort of still uncomfortable with allowing part of Star Wars to mock another part of Star Wars, whether this is an intentional thing behind their brand strategy or a more individual problem with Kathleen Kennedy. She apparently just didn't like the way the script was being filmed. That we don't know, but definitely Solo could have been the one genuine comedy within the Star Wars saga, and they just ultimately weren't comfortable with doing it that way. It turned into more of a heist slash noir film, and I think Solo is okay. It's not a very good film, but it's fine for what it is. But it does show that at the end of the day, George Lucas and I have no shortage of criticisms of him, but he seemed much more comfortable with allowing himself and the Star Wars universe to be parodied and made fun of. And the current regime of Disney, it seems much more uptight. They're much, much more bureaucratic, and they're less comfortable with that kind of comedy within their banner. All right, this has been Star Wars Analyzed on the would-be Detour series and the Star Wars universe. If you like the content, please hit the like button and/or subscribe. Please comment below. Please consider supporting Red Wolf Media on Patreon. Thank you for listening. Have a good day.